Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ashmore. I make videos all about my road to becoming my best self. Today I'm going to talk about how I paid off $46,000 of debt. If that's something that you're interested in, stay tuned. My debt-free journey started back in 2016. When I logged in to look at my student loan accounts, I noticed that the balance due on one of my loans was much higher than what the initial loan amount was, which made no sense because I'd already been paying my loans off for 3 years at that point. So that was the catalyst that got me started on my personal finance and debt-free journey. So starting off, I had absolutely no background in personal finance. I didn't know anything about debt or retirement savings or anything at all, really. Once I saw that I'd been paying off my loans for a few years and the balances weren't going down, I thought, man, something is wrong. So let me do some research. Let me find out how I can get these student loans paid off, because I think my repayment period was, I don't remember if it was 10 or 20 years, but if I'd already been paying for 3 years and the balances were higher than what I started with, then I didn't see how I was going to be able to pay them off in whatever the repayment term was. I started looking at everything that I could about debt payoff, debt freedom, paying off student loans, and the thing that I kept coming back to was the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. This program is definitely something that helped me get started, but I didn't follow it step by step. And I really don't necessarily agree with a lot of his teachings, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. If you're interested in getting started with that program or you want to see what it's about, you can just look up the 7 baby steps. Overall, I did think that it was a good starting point, so I kind of tried to mimic that a little bit when I was doing my debt payoff. My debt consisted of my student loans, my car, my store card that I used to buy my couch at Ashley Furniture, and my payment plan for my cell phone. So starting off, my debt was just over $46,000, including all of those things that I mentioned before. So I'm going to go over 7 things that I did to help me pay off my $46,000 debt. Step number 1 was to look at my bank statements for the last few months and see where I was actually spending my money. I looked over, I think it was maybe October, November, and December, since I started all of this in January. The thing that I noticed I was spending the absolute most money on was food. I was going grocery shopping, buying a bunch of food, and then ordering food for dinner, eating breakfast and lunch at work, and then letting all the food in the refrigerator go bad and doing the same thing over and over, month after month. The next thing that I was spending the most money on was just frivolous shopping. I basically used retail as therapy during that time. So anytime I was in a bad mood, I went shopping, and the more bags I had when I came back, the better I felt. That was the second thing that was eating up all of my money. So once I looked over all of my bank statements and saw where I could make some improvements, I decided on an amount of money that I wanted to throw at my debt every single month. Before I started my debt payments, the second step that I did was I put some money away in a savings account, because at the time, no financial literacy at all, so I had no savings at all. So I did put, I think, about $2,000 away in savings just as a rainy day fund. Since I was learning how to manage my money during this process, I never had to touch that rainy day fund because I was making sure that I had enough money in my bank account to cover any unexpected expenses. Sometimes if something unexpected came up, I wasn't able to put as much money towards my debt, but I decided it was more important for me to be able to pay those things in real time and not put them on credit cards. Once my rainy day fund was set up, step 3 was to list all of my debts in order from the smallest to the largest and start paying them off. This is called the debt snowball method. There's another method that you can use called the debt avalanche, where you pay your debts off in order from the highest interest rate to the lowest. But for me, the debt snowball worked out a lot better. The reason this worked so well for me is because my first few smallest debts were all less than $2,000. So I was able to get those paid off pretty quickly. And getting those wins early on and seeing those accounts closed really kept me motivated to continue. So with the debt snowball method, you list all of your debts, smallest to largest. You put all of the money you can onto the first smallest debt. Once that's paid off, you put all the money you can, including whatever your minimum payment was for that first debt, onto the second debt. You keep doing that until it's paid off, and then continue, so on and so forth. The fourth thing that I did to help pay off my debt is I decreased my spending. I mentioned before that I was spending way too much money on food and shopping. So the first thing I did is I just stopped going shopping all the time. I realized that I was shopping for things that I didn't need or even necessarily want, so I just stopped doing it. The next thing I did is I started meal prepping. So when I went grocery shopping, I would get foods that I actually liked and actually wanted to eat instead of things that I thought maybe I should eat, but maybe didn't actually like. So once I had good foods that I actually liked in the house, I started learning all about meal prepping. I read tons of books, magazines, and consumed a billion hours of YouTube videos about how to meal prep. Once I learned what was easy and what tasted good, I started packing my breakfast and lunch every day, and I started making dinners at home. This dropped my food spending significantly, probably by like $800 a month. And that's a pretty significant amount to be able to throw at my debt every month. So that was one of the biggest things that helped me pay off my debt. For about a year while I was paying off my debt, I was able to decrease my living expenses by moving in with a roommate. So this cut my rent payment in half, it cut my utility payments in half, and during that time, I tried really hard to make sure that even though I was spending less on my living expenses, that I wasn't letting my lifestyle creep up. So I made a ton of progress during that year when I was living with a roommate. Another thing that I did to help keep my spending down is I would implement no spend weeks as often as I could. I tried to plan these out pretty strategically when I knew that there was nothing major going on or no events that I wanted to go to. I would pick a week from Sunday to Sunday, and I would only spend money on things that were absolutely necessary. So those things included groceries, bills, rent, gas for my car, and that's it. I wouldn't spend money on anything else, and I would stay at home and keep myself entertained at home. This was really helpful because it helped me realize that I can do things and live a life where I don't have to be going out all the time. I don't have to be spending money all the time. And those savings added up pretty significantly. As often as I was able to do those no spend weeks, I had a couple $100 extra to throw on my debt. The fifth step was increasing my income. Well, I did a few different things during the times that I was paying off my debt. I started off by picking up some per diem shifts at my job. When I was working 312s, I would pick up 1 to 2 additional 12-hour shifts per pay period. It ended up not being worth doing more than that because they took out a bunch of taxes. So 1 to 2 was the sweet spot for me. That gave me a couple $100 extra to throw at my debt. The next thing that I did, once I left that job for another one, I picked up a per diem job at an outside company. That per diem job paid more than my regular job, so the two of those combined also helped me significantly to pay off my debt. The last thing I did, and I got a new full-time job that was just 5 days a week. My hourly rate was more than both of those two jobs combined, my primary job and my per diem job. So I stayed at that job the whole entire time as I was paying off the last of my debt, and that was great for me. I was able to pay more of my debt off. And again, making sure that I didn't increase my lifestyle during that time when I was making more money was super important. The sixth step that was really, really helpful in paying off my debt is I started consuming a lot of financial and debt-free content. I would read blogs, I would watch YouTube videos, I would listen to podcasts, all about people who were also on this journey. There are different people in all kinds of situations that are on their debt-free journey. For me personally, listening to a lot of those stories really helped to motivate me, especially when I was listening to people talking about situations that were a lot worse off than mine. Some of them had six-figure debt, some of them had less income. Listening to those people talk about how they got their debt paid off made me think, wow, I really need to step my game up. Like, if these people can do it, I can definitely do it. The seventh and final step, and this may be a little controversial, is I continued to live my life during this time. I did not do the super fast, super intense, don't have any fun, buckle down and pay everything off method. That wasn't going to work for me at all. Coming from basically nothing, I was so excited when I got my first job and I was really living my best life and I didn't want to stop. I realized that I didn't have a ton of consumer debt, like credit cards and things like that. My biggest debts were my student loans and my car. So I knew that if I could get those things paid off, I would be good to go. And I still wanted to live my life. So if there was something going on that I really wanted to go to, I went to it. I did go on a couple of trips during this time. I think I went to Europe twice and I went to the Dominican Republic once. So I kept up my yearly vacations and I was still able to pay off my debt. That was a good balance for me. That's not going to work for everyone, especially if your debt is due to your lifestyle habits. But since mine wasn't, keeping some fun and some vacations in my calendar helped me significantly. I know that I could have paid my debt off probably in half the time, but I don't think I did too bad. My goal was to have my debt paid off before I turned 30, and I turned 30 in July of 2019. I made my last debt payment in September of 2019, so I wasn't too far off. I spent my 30th birthday in Amsterdam, so I don't have any regrets about those extra 2 months. So to recap, the 7 steps that I took to pay off my debt were: number 1, I looked at my bank account to see where my money was going and decided on an amount that I wanted to spend every month paying off my debt. Number 2, I did start a small emergency fund just for rainy days. Number 3, I used the debt snowball method to pay off my debts in order from the smallest to the largest. Number 4, I decreased my spending. Number 5, I increased my income. Number 6, I consumed a lot of content about being debt-free so that hearing other people's journeys could help to motivate me. And number 7, I made sure to still keep some fun in my life while I was going through my debt-free process. So that's it. That's my story, all about how I paid off my debt. Paying off my debt is definitely one of the things that has set me on the path to being my best self. Now that I don't have to worry about living paycheck to paycheck, I feel like I'm really able to focus on other things and be able to finance other things that make me feel like my best self. If you like this type of content or would like a follow-up video on what my life has been like since I've gone debt-free, please make sure to like this video and comment down below if you are on a debt-free journey and how that's going for you. Bye-bye for now.